The 1995 NFL season was interesting, and it ended with the Dallas Cowboys beating the Pittsburgh Steelers in Super Bowl 30. But what happened the week after the Super Bowl is what this video is about. On February 4th, 1996, the NFL Pro Bowl was played, and it featured some of the worst mascots in NFL history. Let's take a look. So the Atlanta Falcons decided to make their mascot a falcon, maybe crossbred with a giraffe. Like, just look at this huge neck. Like, it's so abnormally long and thick. It's very unnecessary and doesn't look like a falcon in my opinion at all. Plus, it looks like in this picture, the mascot is wearing like a hoodie. And based on the size of the hood, it doesn't seem like it will cover the whole neck and head area of this mascot. So, I don't know what the Falcons were doing here. And overall, the face of this falcon is pretty suspect. It's just a weird interpretation of a falcon. And I don't really like this one, and as you can see, that's why it's one of the uglier mascots that they've ever came up with. The New Orleans Saints decided to come out with a mascot that's like a weird dog named Big Daddy, and to me it looks like a weird mix between a Sesame Street character and a Muppets character. He seems just so depressed. It's like the most depressing mascot I've ever seen. He makes Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh look like a ray of sunshine. Like, he's just so depressing and so sad. I'm guessing that this is possibly the idea behind Gumbo, which is the Saints' current mascot, who's a dog. Maybe they thought a dog would be a good idea. I don't know if this was the case. I'm glad they didn't go with it and didn't stick with this guy, but it's a possible predecessor to Gumbo, so here is the Saints mascot. For the Los Angeles Rams, this mascot is just extremely stiff and awkward. It looks so forced and looks like just two horns were glued onto a cat. Like, the face looks really weird and doesn't really look like a ram in general, and it just looks so forced and looks nothing like a mascot that I would ever want my favorite NFL team to have. Funny enough, this is actually the last time Los Angeles saw the Rams, because this was their last season in LA until they moved to St. Louis. Obviously they're back in LA now, but I'm glad this mascot definitely didn't stay, because this would be atrocious to see now. In the 1995 Pro Bowl, the Miami Dolphins released this mascot to the public, and he just looks a little bit undercooked and a little derpy. The head's too big on him, and overall, just pretty frightening mascot in my opinion. Pretty ugly, and I don't think they should have kept him. I'm glad they didn't. They have a different mascot now, so they obviously saw that this was a pretty poor choice. However, this is what the fans got to see in 1995. And I'm glad they never had to see it again. The Minnesota Vikings released their mascot, which just looks like a large plush doll. I really hate human-based mascots that don't actually have real humans as like that exterior part, and it's like a weird face as the mascot. It just looks so unnatural and really weird, and just a weird character in general. And this mascot isn't even that creative. It just has a Viking helmet, and it has like the red hair and beard and stuff, but overall the jersey it's wearing is just a simple Vikings jersey and really doesn't throw back to like a real Viking. So not a big fan of this one. Doesn't really represent the Vikings that well, and that's why it's on this list. The Philadelphia Eagles had this mascot, which was an eagle with what looks like pilot's goggles on it. To me it seems a little bit redundant because eagles fly. Why would they have pilot's goggles? But anyway, this is a pretty ugly mascot nonetheless. The beak and face in general just look intimidating to a fault, I guess. And I'm just really glad that the Eagles now have a mascot named Swoop, and he's pretty cool, he's fun, and he doesn't look as ugly as this one. So I don't know what they were doing with this one, but this is the mascot they had in 1995. I'm glad they don't have it anymore. To me, it looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to take inspiration from The Wizard of Oz, and they made their mascot very similar to the Tin Man in that movie. I really don't know what they were thinking. Like, the head of this mascot looks like a tea kettle. The body is just like a box. Like, why? And then it looks like steel beams as the legs. I know the Steelers and Pittsburgh is like a steel city and all, but this is just not the move. So this is what they rolled out. Luckily, they didn't have this mascot much longer. They do have Steely McBeam now. I don't really like him either, but at least he's better than this, whatever this atrocity is. So I'm glad they don't have it anymore. Let's move on. Now for that game, the San Diego Chargers decided to roll out a bull mascot named Toro. And it's the only time that a bull mascot has ever been used for the Chargers. And it doesn't really make sense because Alternative logos, and in general, the Chargers are associated with like horses, not really bulls. So it didn't make sense for them whatsoever because they're not bulls, they're like horses, Chargers. And it's possible that this mascot is actually the inspiration for the Houston Texans mascot, Toro. Obviously, the Texans were created in 2002, and this was from 1995, but maybe they thought it was a good idea to bring back a mascot named Toro, which is a bull, so that's what the Texans did. Maybe this is a predecessor to that. I don't know, just speculation. But nonetheless, this is a pretty ugly mascot. His horns have like the Chargers bolt on them, and in general, he just looks kind of scary and not really inviting to be a good mascot for like kids and the audience members in NFL games. But nonetheless, the Chargers did have Toro, the bull mascot. For the San Francisco 49ers, in 1995, they used this character, whose name was Niner, and he does have really striking resemblance to their current mascot, named Sourdough Sam, but I don't think it's the same thing, so maybe it's an inspiration for him. They just revised Niner to become Sourdough Sam, the mascot that they have now. But nonetheless, pretty ugly mascot. Obviously, the face looks very cartoonish, and he has a beard. You can't really tell what he's supposed to be. I guess he's supposed to be a gold miner, but you can't really tell that. He doesn't have a pickaxe in this picture or anything, but this is what the 49ers had, and as you can see, pretty ugly mascot. Now, the Washington Redskins decided to roll out this mascot for this game, and I'm sure nowadays they would catch a lot of flack for this one, but back then, it wasn't as PC, and people probably didn't care as much. I don't know, maybe they did. But this one's supposed to resemble a Native American, and I'm guessing it's supposed to be kind of like their logo, which has the Native American inside the circle with the feathers. So this mascot has a mohawk, and he has the Native American traditional cloth on his waist, and in general, he just looks pretty ugly. The face doesn't really work, and this cartoonish style that they used back then, not one of my favorites. So as you can see, the Washington Redskins had a pretty bad mascot as well. And finally, the Dallas Cowboys rolled out their mascot, Rowdy, and actually, this is his debut because in 1996, they adopted him as their official mascot. And as you guys know, in my previous video where I talked about all the NFL mascots, he was not one of my favorites. Like, he's just pretty ugly, and the face, the facial structure, as you guys know from some of these mascots I've been talking about, I'm not a big fan of this style, and he's just an ugly mascot. Unfortunately, the Cowboys stuck with him, and he's still their mascot, but in my opinion, he looks pretty terrible. So this is the Cowboys mascot. They had him in 1995. Unfortunately, they still have him today. So these mascots were here because they were part of the Team NFL Heroes program. This program was a line of mascot-like characters representing each NFL team developed to be marketed to kids in the early 1990s. They were on different kinds of merch like school supplies, stuffed toys, and t-shirts. For the Pro Bowl after the 1995 season, costumes of some of the characters were created and they made appearances at the game. It's unclear if costumes for every team were made and shown, but the ones I talked about were definitely at the game. Most of the Team NFL hero characters lasted a season or two, but some were actually adopted as official mascots. This happened before most NFL teams had a mascot, so these characters gave team officials some ideas. Revere, the Patriots character, became their official mascot immediately after the season. When they made it their official mascot, they changed his name to Pat Patriot, which is the one that they still use today. Miles became the Broncos' official mascot a few years later in 1999, but was originally a Team NFL Heroes character. Interestingly, the Green Bay Packers had a polar bear character named Bear, B-A-Y-E-R. This was probably tough for Packers fans because their division rivals, the Chicago Bears, had a bear as their mascot. So this probably caused some turmoil between fans. So there you have it. This is the NFL game that featured some of the ugliest mascots in NFL history, and a brief history on why they did it.